all. In today's session, we are all going to learn about the identification of a business idea and opportunity. So let's begin with the definition of the idea. An idea is a concept that can be used to prepare any financial gain which is mainly focused on a particular product or service which is being offered for money. It having a various characteristics of you can see that how a particular researcher or an innovator could create and promising the business idea. The first one, the researcher should have or prepare an innovative idea. So idea should be a unique, original and creative. It should offer something new which is different from the existing products or services. The idea should be profitable. The idea must have a potential to generate a sufficient profits and provide a maximum return on the investment. Next is the idea should be feasible. It should be realistic. It looks like a realistic, and of course it should gain an achievable results depending upon the skills, the experience and the available resources. The idea should be scalable. A good business idea should have a growth potential and ability to expand the new markets. The next section is the sources of new idea. The first source is a direct observation. It is the first and the basic, you can say, source of the business of a new idea, and always a particular researcher keep an eye to open and look around the surroundings that what is exactly going on. It could be related to the travel, it could be related to the window shopping, it could related to any sort of reading, it could related to any sort of web search or the social listening. When we talk about the travel, the way new ideas has always been emerged during the travel, during the trips or the travel to a new destination. So it's something relate to the new things. A particular researcher could see a new things, the places, and of course meet up the new people. The next one is a window shopping. The particular you can say researcher have an unintentional visit to the market and just look around the products or services that a particular retailer or the marketer offer, which plays a very significant role in the process of generating a new ideas. The next one is reading. Reading is of course a traditional source of a new idea to get to know about a new product or services, and of course the customers' lifestyles as well. The next one is the web search. It is also another source of new idea where a particular researcher look around the various advanced tools which are available on the social media to connect with the people, and of course they can easily understand the demand for a new products or services. The next one is the social listening. It is not necessary to tell about the people on face-to-face conversation, but of course it is equally important to interact and ask the questions about the new products and get any suggestions if applicable through the social media such as the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so that they can easily get to know the target customers, and through the feedback and suggestion they can work upon and have a new thoughts to improve the existing product or services. And the next source is the unstructured and the structured oral communication. In this particular source of an idea where the particular researcher or innovator talk to the family, friends, people who are giving to use it or maybe using a similar products, and in doing up a casual talking will gives a fair understanding of the requirement of a particular customer, or whether if they're already using a product or they are buying a new product and then use it. So it will get, a particular researcher will get to know the exact kind of change they are looking for a particular product. And in this particular you can say source, talking to people from a different through a different distribution channels or through the salesmen about the positive and the negative aspects of the available products, which always gives an insight for the required changes in the proposed project or the proposed scheme or initiatives. The next section are what are the methods of generating ideas. The first one is e-survey. In this, the researcher could use a Google Forms or any Google product, which is a Google product, which is always be a convenient for a researcher to handle, and after all it is a free of cost to be organized for it to get an opinion poll or to conduct an opinion poll on the particular question, as you can see on the YouTube as well, that whether a particular customer liked a meals in a new restaurant or not. So it is also a kind of a survey where the opinions would always be collected from a different types of customers regarding the products, regarding the services, to know while they are purchasing any to get to understand their purchasing behavior. The next one is a ever note. These are the chances that the ideas always come and go without your being able to make them down. So it has always been important to Evernote is always assist you to note down the important or relevant points or relevant thoughts immediately, so that it could be used later purposes. The next one is a Nirja essays. It is a team effort. It is a team work of an incredible or using a team of a creative authors, which always helps to brainstorm and turn into a you can say a most appropriate idea and graft a high quality business plan for you and your team as well. The next is internet. Internet may be used for the convenience as a cloud computing, which could be used according to the convenience of you can say the transportation, or any Google slides could be used to share, so that it could get to know the exact scenario of the market, or if it could be a group entrepreneurship where the new ideas needs to be generated, then these method would be most appropriate. The next section is the steps for the concretion of new ideas. The first one is that to pinpoint the identified gap through the brainstorming, or you can say the reverse you can say audiographic you can say style. So it is very important to write down all the gaps that has been figured out by the researcher regarding any brand or product. So it is while asking the questions from the customers and before and after, so it is easily to get to know the what would be the gap, that where the purchasing power of the customers would go down, and easily to identify that what potential to be you can say figure out that it could be useful for the organization. And of course it gives you can say gives the researcher the parameters of every segment on which he or she researching on. The next step is a scammer. Scammer is all about the activities where the particular researcher can able to you can say substitute, even you constraint, adapt you can say the multiple uses where they can easily figure out the or eliminate or renegate the particular product or services. So in this particular step, the researcher can easily decide that what would be the gaps involved in it, and accordingly they could work to substitute, compete, adapt, and accordingly they could work for you can say improvements while collecting this, after collecting the suggestion, and keep on working for the further improvement, or looking out any substitute goods so that it could be beneficial for the organization to sustain in the market. Next is mind mapping for a product or service or a scale of operation or any location. So mind mapping is a diagrammatic layout which always represents the gap between the demand and supply and how it could be fulfilled. So it in this the particular researchers look out the solution in hand. They can conduct the task, they can figure out the concepts, the items, or the words which are to be arranged and linked through the non-linear graphical layout, which provides the user a clear understanding about the initiative framework upon which they could develop a new concept or a central theme of a particular product or services. The next is to identify the segment of a society which which you would like to enter the market. So entrepreneurship is a painful or a tough struggle in the beginning, and it always struggle arrive when a particular researchers work upon the product or work upon the new product and services, and it could be which could be near to your heart, and you need to be strongly believe that we can do it being as an entrepreneur. So it is also equally important to evaluate the market trends, and of course to evaluate the gap that exists in yourself too. So whether you are willing to spend your resources, your time, energy, and something which where the value could increase and return may not, then the return may not be assured in that particular case. Next is scan the government policies. So from time to time, government is always encouraged the entrepreneurship or the production of some products through the fiscal policies, or in respect of the custom duties of the inputs, or what could be the benefits you can say decided on the finished products. These policies must be studied before any entrepreneur work or take up an option to be decided. Such incentives not only reduce the cost of the production, but the government wants to be produced. So there may be some comparative advantages for the country in terms of international trade, or the government wants to be self-reliant. So a particular researcher or innovator must study all the possibilities of the product. The next section is the scanning and the screening of the business ideas. So these are the particular parameters where the business idea could be scanned and screened accurately. The first one is the SWOT analysis, second is a minimum viable product, and the third one is a break-even point. So let's begin with the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is all about the framework to identify and analyze the strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and the threats of a particular product or service of the organization. So the primary goal of this analysis is to increase the awareness of the factors that could that could make a new way of you can say making a business ideas. So it is equally important to understand that what would be the strength, weakness, and opportunity and threats of a particular product or a particular organization, so that the organization could take up a meaningful decision for its products. And there are the various parameters of such framework which could be related to or using up the approaches when it comes to identify and analyzing the business requirements for a particular product or services. So in terms and the ideas could be based while doing by doing a brainstorming of a in making up any business decisions. Then these are the four main parameters of the SWOT analysis. The first one is strength. So strength is always described at what the organization are actually excel at and what parameters they would take up while you can say transform into a strong level, a stronger role within the competition. So it totally depends upon the new brands, the local customer base, how they could make up a strong balance sheet and follow the unique technologies in it. The next one is the weakness. Weakness is always be one of the step where an organization is always screen the particular lacking or gaps in the you can see the operational level. So it could be one of the parameter where a particular organization which always works to improve you can say improve the brands or a products wherever it's necessary to sustain into a competitive environment, where if they look up any weak brands, so of course they can work for the further improvement and turn into the high levels you can say to offer competitive advantage and try to avoid all those weaknesses where they faces any lack of capital, any supply claim, any inadequate supply chain, any you can say high level of debts. So when any such arises faces, so definitely the organization would always prepare the remedies or the actions in advance. The next one is the opportunities. Opportunities refer the favorable external factors that could give an organization a competitive advantage. So there are plenty of examples which always refers to an opportunity. So if a country you can say cuts the tariff rates, then of course a car manufacturer you can say can export its cars into the you can say new markets. So automatically it will open up a new opportunities according to the step taken, or a new policy has been introduced where the tariff rates has been cut down, and accordingly the manufacturer took a meaningful decision that they entered into a market, and of course they manufacture a new cars in it, and that ultimately increases their market share. The next one is the threats. Threats refers to the factors which have a potential to harm the organization. An organization has give a thought regarding the threats that they could face, and accordingly they could work on it. So it could develop it also destroy or reduce the you can say the maximum level of their operational activities in the market. So this is an example of SWOT analysis where the General Motors, where you can see the strength, weaknesses and opportunities has been discussed. So, and accordingly they always come up to, and the company will always come up on a meaningful decisions for a new brand as according to the past experiences that they faced, according to the analysis that the company has done for its new brand or a new products. The next concept is a minimum viable product. When we talk about the minimum, it's always talk about the you can see the foundation of a beer born, you can say features of a particular product. The next one is viable. It's all about the your self thoughts about a particular product and product, that how it could be a something unique and something new, which definitely gives a best facility to the customer. So as you can see, in case of Instagram, the MVP of the Instagram is always give a facility to the users to share their photos and apply the filters, and of course they always allow the you can say Kevin Simtron, who is the founder, to look if the market if the market is always approved the product or not. So this application, if more having a more like by the users, then of course all the incredible features that we could see today, like the messages, the business profiles, the stories, the live telecast, tagging, hashtag, which always be a part of the Instagram success stories. So globally there are 1074 billion Instagram users now. There are also another example is Facebook. So Facebook is also the popular social networking site, and it was founded by the Mark Zuckerberg in 2004. The basic minimum viable product idea was to connect the students of the Harvard University. So using this platform, users were able to post the messages on board, and whatever their business ideas is proved popular enough to expand the platform with more complex features, and Mark did you can say has evolved the Facebook into what we know today. The next concept is a break-even point. So break-even point is a point where the total cost and total revenue are equal. And this concept is also mean where there is a situation where the no loss or profit occurred, and the business will always make a balance between the production and its cost. So for any new business, it is very important to calculate a yearly business plan. So a company is always have a potential to look up the investors in a business, which could be safe or not be, but ultimately the organization will always take a decision to get to know about the exact scenario of their of advantages or disadvantages regarding the production cost and revenue. So for the existing business, this particular concept is more useful not only in marketing activities, but also not or marketing cost, but also needs to evaluate the exact potential for in terms of going up to a global sectors, and how in a particular situation where the disaster scenarios which always it could be exist, how this concept is helpful to take up a decision or come up to a situation where the particular cost, total cost and total revenue would be equal. So this is a diagrammatic representation. So if you look up the where the particular cost line, total cost line, which come up the yellow line, and the fixed cost is in red line, where the if you can see the total fixed cost is you can see the vertical line, and of course the break-even point, which always been equal to the total fixed cost divided by price per unit minus variable cost per unit. In other words, we can also calculate the break-even point in units, that is the total cost, total fixed cost by contribution per unit. So if you look up the revenue line, which is begin from the origin, and when it cuts the total cost line, so when the two revenue and the total cost line touch cuts at a one point, that point is exactly called the break-even point, and this point initiates or reflects that the total revenue is equal to the total cost, which is exactly called a situation of a break-even point. So let's take a small numerical example. So find out the break-even point if the fixed cost is equal to rupees 3, you can say 36 lakhs 20,000, and the market price per unit is rupees 440, and the variable cost per unit is rupees 40. If the annual demand is 10,000, whether the entrepreneur should make it or not. So break-even point, which all of the formula says that fixed cost oblique the market price per unit minus variable cost per unit. That means fixed cost by contribution per unit. So what is the formula of calculate the contribution per unit? It's a market price per unit minus variable cost per unit, and this formula is being used because in the question it is clearly mentioned the market price and the variable cost. So easily we can calculate the contribution per unit, and the fixed cost is already given in the question. So fixed cost is a 36 lakhs 20,000 by market price is 440, and the variable cost per unit is minus 40. So when we deduct 440 minus 40, we will get the answer, that is 400. So once we divide the 400 to 36 lakh 20,000, we can easily get the break-even point, that is in rupees 9,050. So break-even point is equal to the 9,050 as the annual demand is 10,000. So automatically it is a sustainable proposal, and the company should continue, and the entrepreneur should make it at the earliest and accept the proposal. Now we can come up to the next section, is a selection of a business idea. The first step is a selection of a product. A particular organization has a responsibility to select the most appropriate product, but it totally based on the market analysis, and for the product whose demand is expected to grow in the future, and the preferences are to be given to all those products which have a regular demand. And the entrepreneur always look up to all those products which actually gives the maximum return on the investment. So at the same time has to prepare, must have the required skill and interest in that field. The next step is evaluating the business ideas. So the entrepreneur always come up with a list of products and including the services which ultimately qualifies the checklist, while you can say understanding the demand and supply forces. So in this way, the entrepreneur must conduct a comparative analysis from all the selected products or options, and then they could ask from the team of experts or the users to compare and for the feedback, and then compare the initial investment of the selected products or options. So the entrepreneur must also look up the expected return, the continuity of the product, the expected expansion of demand are the sum of the criterias, so that the business ideas need to be evaluated. The next step, or the third step, is the selection of a suitable business idea. The ultimate objective of any entrepreneur is to maximize the profits, and it could be achieved by increasing the revenue earned from selling the product in the market. And ultimately, mathematically, it could say the amount of products sold into the price of the product, or minimizing the cost of production. So it always be looked upon that while increasing the price of the product, it could be a wiseful thought for all the enterprises, but it may not be possible in many cases if the prices of the other substitute changes in the market. So ultimately, the entrepreneur has to put an efforts and in terms of control or the cost of production. The next concept is market research. Market research is a process that how an entrepreneur could gather the information about their target audience like consumer, competitors, and that is exactly called the market research. This process is mainly involved the several steps like identify the research objectives, determine the research methods, how the researcher or entrepreneur could develop the research instruments, how they would collect the data, how they would finalize the findings of the report. And that is exactly when the whole process you can say goes on and work by the researcher, that is exactly called the market research. The data gathered in the market research includes the demographics, psychographics, behavioral data, market trends, competitors data, and customer feedback. So whatever the information has been gathered is always helps the businesses to develop their marketing and business strategies accordingly. And moreover, the market research, which also helps in the development of the product or services in order to make a good user experience. The methods of market research. The first is asking buyers indirectly, or second is directly asking buyers. So let's have an overview of these methods. The first one is asking buyers indirectly. In this particular method, people actually dealing with the buyers who give a very pragmatic suggestions in the following way. First, opinion of the salesperson or the people who are working in the distribution channel. So in this particular method of market research, the estimation of the future demand is need to be calculated on the basis of the salesmen or the people who are actually working in the distribution channels, who has a very close connection with the existing product. So on the basis of the close connection or a regular connection with the user, the various views, either positive or negative, regarding the product will be gathered, and accordingly the features could be modified, either it could be added or subtracted in order to make the utility of the product more progressive. So in this way, it is very important for the entrepreneur or the organization to undergo a rigorous analysis before taking any financial decision. So what are the advantages or disadvantages of this method? The advantages is this method is very simple and ultimately it saves the time and money. No statistical measurements could be done according to the Singh 2009, as the opinions are given by the experienced people or the expertise team, and these are almost correct. The next is disadvantages. This method may be useful for a short period, but it cannot be goes on for a long run market research. So in the dynamic environment where the lifestyle fashion is always being changed by the people, so automatically the people may give the opinions about the existing product, but it cannot give a very dependable opinions that what kind of product they are looking for at present or in future. So that is also the disadvantage of this method. Next is, as the salesperson are not trained for making the estimation, so definitely they could give you can say user experience, user opinions, or which are not exactly true, to put up any changes under the dynamic economic environment, and that's why it is termed as a disadvantage of this method. The next method is Delphi method. This method refers to an opinion of a panel of experts is used in this method of market research. They are given a series of questions or asked to give their opinion. That opinions are actually fed into a computer for further analysis, and in the ease of contradiction they are asked to create a consensus on their views. Sometimes experts do not have you can see the equal level of knowledge of all the questions which has been asked, to assign the weight or you can say ranking for their familiarity with the topic. The few advantages and disadvantages of this method. So advantages are the expert view, suggestions and recommendation are more reliable, but disadvantages, there is a possibility that the expert could not reach to the consensus decision. Expert opinion may be sometimes based. The next is the directly asking buyer. The most reliable method may be census, where each and every user is asked about the expectation from the product, or may not be feasible, or in most cases it could incur the higher cost or time, and it may not be required any detailed viewpoint about the product. So in this way it is an open conversation about the product with everyone to guess about exactly what was the gap between it, the existing and the new products. So it would be advisable to ask from a sample of users. There are few methods under this technique. The first one is the ethnographic method, and the second one is the statistical method. So let's have an overview of these methods as well. The one is ethnographic method. The people are studied in their cultural background with the objective to prepare a pen sketch of the people in a particular culture against the theoretical background which is developed through the grounded theory. So from the ethnographic study, purposive sampling is almost adopted, which may not be interested to participate in the study. So there is no fixed samples. It may depend from 5 to 30 samples, and the data gathering and analysis is always go simultaneously. So along with the researchers, observation, unstructured interaction, and the semi-structured questionnaires, the researcher is always look on the photo albums, diaries, reports of the local, you can see committees and the you can say members to understand and get the answer of the research question. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the ethnographic method? It provides a very rich data. It is appropriate to study a new aspect of human behavior or people in a new place where a hypothesis statements are not necessary to prepare in such situations. It does not rely purely on what the respondent report on the particular product, but is also based on the researcher observations too. Disadvantages: observation takes a lot of time. We have to prepare a lot of equipments to be used, and plenty of thoughts goes into a mind while observing the plenty of samples, you can say, or the people behavior. As based on the researcher observations also, it could be difficult to maintain the required objectivity. Sometimes the researcher observe beyond considering the objective of the main study. So that could be an disadvantage of this method. Next is a statistical method. Statistical methods is also of two types. The first one is directly asking from the prospective consumers. We call a cross-sectional study. A particular entrepreneur who have already decided conceptually the statement, which is called hypothesis, and later it has been verified whether this statement is true or false, and in this way this study is being conducted to identify whether the statement is correct or not. A stratified random sample is most common method in where the members of the population are first divided into groups and that they are randomly selected as a part of the sample. And the SPSS software may be used for the analysis. The next is advantages of this method, as all the measurements is done at one point of time, so there is a good control over the measurement process. Since the follow-up is not required, so this could be one of the most effective method of demand and supply analysis. Disadvantages: time is very important dimension, but sometimes the researchers or the entrepreneurs is neglect that time element in this method. The accuracy of the results depends on the accuracy of the sample size and its factors or the constituents. The next method of statistics, that's to calculate the trends through the regression or a time series analysis. From time series data, the trends is always fit in is a very common method to continue the demand in market research, to estimate the demand in the market research. The most common is visually fitted the line, and of course while calculating through the regression is one of the most scientific method. There are some steps to follow to reach out the meaningful conclusion. Find out the independent variables on which the dependent variables depend from the literature available. So through this, the method of the least square will be used, and of course it could be derived using the regression equation, that is y is equal to a plus b x. B is the slope of the line, and of course and A is a y-intercept. So once the regression equation is derived, then y, that is the demand for a product for which the market survey is being conducted, can be easily calculated for any value of x, and the software's data may be used to find this trend. The advantages and disadvantages of this method. The advantages: it provides the most scientifically calculated values and gives an accurate trends. The disadvantages of this method is forecasting for the future on the basis of the past data. It could be a limited adaptability as the dynamic environment, due to the dynamic environment as one of the microeconomic variables is always affects the micro level data differently. Next, accuracy in measuring the independent variables affects the accuracy of the dependent variables significantly. If there is very low demand in the time series due to the unexpected circumstances or uncertainties like COVID-19, the value of A and B, you can say, will decrease substantially. The next section is business plan. What is exactly the business plan is? The business plan is a formal document which outlines the company objectives, the strategies, the financial forecast, which serve as a comprehensive roadmap for the business growth and development. So business plans is always play a significant role, whether they are for the startup or a offshoot of an existing business. It always helps to prepare the strategies at the marketing or business strategies while launching the particular new product. And of course, it also aims to estimate the business growth of the business while also provides the direction and build a case to attract the investments. So for the startups, business plans plays a very significant role in securing the fundings from investors, banks, venture capitalists. But for the established companies, business plan always helps in strategic planning, guiding the long-term operation and achieving the business goals. What are the key components of the business plan? The first one is executive summary. The executive's presentation, which always gives a concise overview of the entire business plan, and of course, you can say in case of a subsequent sections. Next is a business description. This part is always elaborate of what the business does, what would be the legal structure, what would be its unique value proposition, and the market is always needs to fulfill in that. The next is the market analysis. The market analysis section is always provide a detailed framework of the industry, market environment, target audience, and the competitive environment. And this includes the demographic, market share, market trends, and the analysis of the competitors. Next is the organizational structure. This section is also outlines the company organizational structure, how they could define the roles of the responsibilities of the employees, the management, and of course the departmental structure. Next is product or services. This area describes that what products or services is to be offered by the company, including the description of the product, lifestyle, and any intellectual property or research and development activities. Next, marketing and sales strategy. This part of the plan is outlines the strategies for branding, marketing and sales approaches, and of course the customer acquisition. Next is a funding request. For startups and the business seeking funding, this section is always helps to specify the you can say the amount of funding needed by the organization, either new or existing. So it always helps to prepare the organization about the different projects, and accordingly the proposed use of funds and preferred financial arrangement should be prepared in advance. Next is the financial projection. The financial section provides the projection of the business financial performance over the next 3 to 5 years. It could include the forecasted income statements, balance sheet, cash flow, funds flow statement, and capital expenditure budgets. And the next is appendix. This appendix includes any additional information that supports the data included in the plan, such as the resume of the management team, any legal agreement, any technical specification, or any other relevant documents. The next concept is a technical analysis. Technical analysis or the technical feasibility consists to analyze the technical or the technological aspect of the proposed idea. It consists of the 5 subparts like location selection, technology selection, capacity planning, production planning, and the operational planning. So let's have an overview of these elements or parts. The first one is the location selection. It refers to the selection of the place to set up any manufacturing unit or any service center. Next is the technology selection. It is an important fact to handle the routine business operations, maintaining records, order processing, inventory management, database management of the customer, database management of suppliers, internal communication, cost tracking, human resource management. It works all together. In fact, it also connects with the customer and suppliers. Next is capacity planning. Capacity refers to the maximum output that a particular business can produce with the available resources in a given period of time. That what sort of what capacity has to be decided and what would be the measurements tools is to be required to fulfill it. For example, 100 shirts per day or 200 you can say dishes per day. A company must access the capacity utilization. If there is a over capacity utilization, it leads to a lower operating efficiency. If it is under, the company may lose the earning opportunity. So this is a way that how the company decide the capacity planning. The next is the production planning. It is applicable to the business organization who are actually involved in the manufacturing activities. The entire manufacturing process reflects the form of a flow chart or a process that perform the manufacturing process which should be listed in a particular or an organized way. As the particular table is being prepared, that indicates the name of the asset, the price of the asset, the life of the asset, and of course the tentative name of the machinery and supplier, which also been is incorporated, and at the end of the production process. And the next one is the operational planning. It is a sequel step would describe the flow of goods and services right from production to customer, that how the product would reach to the customer. And in order to find out, to identify that route, you can say the most popular method is being used called LIFO or FIFO method. That means last in first out, or first in first out method. This strategies needs to find out the cost of the same and then mention in the operational planning. So in this particular step, a stock register is to be maintained, which could be an effective tool of the inventory control and needs to be prepared according to these two methods, LIFO and FIFO. The next concept is the environmental analysis. Environmental analysis, in other words, we can call the environmental scan. It is a strategic tool which always used to identify and assess all external and internal elements of the business environment. It also examines the organizational and industry factors that could positively or negatively influence the business and its success. An environment analysis assists the organization in defining factors that could influence their business operations. So by putting more weight on these elements, they also foresee the trajectory of their business given the circumstances, and this approach is always allow the business or the management team to develop a strategy that could take advantage of opportunities and reduce the threats. Components. There are two main components, internal factors and external factors. These components ask the organization to look inward. This could be the, you can say, employees or the team of the management, and they could always examine the organization's strong and weak points based on its mission and vision. These factors are also allow the businesses to reflect in their direction and plan in a time set period called 5 to 10 years. Next is external factors. On other hand, external factors refer to a high level consideration that exists outside the organization. So these are the few examples of environmental analysis. The impact assessment, environmental impact assessment for a new highway. So when planning the construction of a new highway, an environmental impact assessment team is essential to evaluate the potential environmental effects and ensure the sustainable development. So data collection, the EIA team collects the data on the local ecosystems, water sources, air quality, noise level, and of course in order to take a survey or conduct a field survey, which always listed the document wildlife and of course mediate the air and the noise sensors, and how this team analyze the data using the statistical analysis and predictive modeling. And of course it also analyze that how the highway might affect the local flora and fauna or the water runoff patterns and the air quality. So this examine the, you can say, scenarios such as increased traffic and the potential pollution. So this is the analysis done by the team so that a meaningful decision is to be taken up to construct a new highway. And the next is mitigation measures. So based on the findings, after analysis, the EIA proposes the mitigation measures such as wildlife corridors, noise barriers, water management systems, and these measures which ultimately minimize the negative impact and enhance the highway environmental compatibility. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening this lecture. I will come up to a more important relevant topics in the upcoming session. So till time, thank you and namaste to all.